Now he takes off the shirt. He's running down the middle by the 50. He's at the 30. He's bare-chested and banging his chest. Now he runs the opposite way. He runs at the 50. He runs at the 40. The guy is drunk, but there he goes. The 20. They're chasing him. They're not going to get him. Waving his arms. Bare-chested. Somebody stop that man.
Here comes the blue coat.
Oh, they got him.
Here
They're
comes
coming
the
from
blue
the
coats.
left. Oh, and they tackle him at the 40-yard line.
I'm talking about balls deep. I'm talking about balls deep. I'm talking about balls deep in love. I'm talking about balls deep. I'm talking about balls deep. I'm talking about balls deep in love.
And now for our feature presentation.
Balls Deep with Devin Jovan.
Hey, welcome back to Balls Deep Podcast. Before we get started, we want to offer our condolences to the family of Abdulmanap Nurmagomedov, who is the father of UFC fighter Khabib Nurmagomedov. Abdulmanap is largely credited for the success of Khabib in the sport of mixed martial arts, and as well as a lot of other young fighters in mixed martial arts from the Republic of Dagestan. He was a father, a coach, and a dedicated supporter of his son in the sport. We at Balls Deep Podcast offer our condolences to the Nurmagomedov family as well as the UFC and the sport of mixed martial arts. Now to jump into this episode, which by the way is our 10th episode.
Woo! Yes! All right! Woo!
So I'd quickly like to thank those of you who were here since episode 1, and even those of you who are just tuning in now. We appreciate it. To start the episode, we wanted to talk about this upcoming UFC card, UFC 251. They replaced Usman's opponent, Gilbert Burns, with George Masvidal,
who was supposed to be in the...
which is as official as it can be right now because they still got to do testing and stuff.
I mean, they did one part of the testing.
One part. They got to test like 3 or 4 times.
Yeah, so you got to... The way they have is they test in Vegas before they fly to Fight Island. As soon as they get to Fight Island, they test again, and then they test, I believe it's the day before the fight, which is their weigh-in day. And then if they all pass all 3, they're good to go.
Yeah, so now that's official as it's
Gonna get
as of right now. What do you think about it? How are you feeling?
I'm actually happy about how everything turned out. I mean, the Masvidal-Usman fight was the original fight. It was supposed to happen, but then the whole contract negotiations with Masvidal kind of is what caused it not to happen to begin with, and that's where Gilbert Burns stepped in from. I mean, he was a formidable opponent with everything he was doing. When I seen the news, I was kind of tight at Gilbert Burns. I just seen that he pulled out of the event, so I was like, "That's bullshit," because he was asking for it, yada yada yada. But then you told me he tested positive, which I didn't even know. He wasn't feeling well, so I hope he's feeling better now, or he gets better soon. But we all got what we were asking for.
Ultimately, we got what we wanted. I kind of similar to what you said. Actually, I feel the same way. It's kind of, this is the fight everybody wanted. This is the original fight everybody wanted. Not to say that Gilbert Burns didn't earn the right to be in that octagon. Clearly he did. And I would have loved to see that fight. But everybody wanted to see Masvidal and Usman. And like you said, it didn't go well with the contract negotiations. That fell through. So they kind of just filled Burns in there after he, shocked the world and had the performance that he did against former champion Tyron Woodley. So as excited as I was for that Gilbert Burns matchup, because I was really curious to see how it worked out, how well he'd do, because, I mean...
They knew each other well.
The dude's an animal. I mean, he's a great fighter. We saw how he did it, like I said, against former champion Tyron Woodley, so it would have still been a great fight. Obviously, it's just not that big, pay-per-view that you want, Masvidal and Usman. Like, So
I was interested to see how it turned out too, because they were training partners for pretty much their whole career. So they went their separate ways this time around to train and get ready for the fight. So it was going to be a good fight regardless. I mean, Gilbert Burns is going to get his turn. I'm assuming he's going to be the one to get the next title fight once he's feeling all better with the reign that he's going on. But I just feel like this all came full circle. We got what we wanted. I'm interested to see what happens with this fight, being that it's on 7 days' notice in a sense.
Yeah.
The Masvidal, I feel like he's got a win-win situation on his hands.
Oh, definitely.
You take the fight on 7 days' notice, you lose.
You took the fight on 7 days' notice.
You took the fight on 7 days' notice, so no one's really gonna take anything away from you. You had the guts to step up and do what you got to do, and then if you win, you beat his ass on 7 days' notice.
And you're champion.
You're champion. So he's got a win-win situation. I feel like if he loses, he's gonna get another shot at the title eventually, a lot sooner than people think. So I'm just interested to see how it turns out. He might shock the world.
Yeah.
Again, with especially
I feel like ultimately, I think he will end up getting his shot again, Burns. But Masvidal, like you said, I think even Kamaru Usman just today said that. I mean, he's got a win-win situation, and there's really no way to slice it other than that. I mean, hate as much as you want on Usman, say what you want, but you know, he's got everything to lose in this fight because he's taking a fight on 7 days' notice against the guy. He said it today. I mean, he's not, Masvidal's not the only guy who's got to sign that contract. He's got to sign the contract too. So it's not just Masvidal agreeing to fight. It's Usman agreeing to fight Masvidal just as much. I also want to add, I don't think this fight will be any better or worse than what the Burns fight would have offered, because obviously we don't know that. I think Burns could have made it just as much as an interesting fight, but I feel like Masvidal's name and the history he has with Usman definitely makes the build-up feel that much more.
That's the one thing I was going to say is this fight just seems more interesting than the Burns fight, only because of the history that they have. Like, they truly hate each other.
Yeah. And we almost fought each other at the Super Bowl.
Yes, and if they seen each other coming because there was a video where Masvidal was getting on the elevator, and as soon as he got on, Usman came off, and it was a close call because if they seen each other, they probably would have banged out right there in the lobby.
I don't know if you saw, everybody was saying that Kamaru Usman pulled that. Oh, I didn't see him.
I didn't see that one.
He said that he pulled that, pretending he didn't see my boy. So
I didn't see that one, but the news that surprised me though was that Masvidal said that he's right now, or at 4th of July, he was weighing around 191, which means he would have to lose 20 pounds in 6 days.
Yeah.
Just shocking, because as an average Joe or just a typical average human being, it's hard to lose weight. So to cut down 20 pounds in 6 days, it seems kind of ridiculous. I mean, he's experienced because he's taken fights, because he has a history of doing backyard brawls. He used to fight with Kimbo Slice and stuff like that. He used to take fights, last minute fights as well. So you have to cut weight here and there too. So I'm interested to see how that works out. I hope he's able to do so.
Him stopping for pizza in Rome, what I saw today, isn't going to help him.
No, I seen that. I was actually laughing because he seems pretty confident in his ability to cut weight. So I'm interested to see how that works out. Today we just found out that Masvidal's coach is not going to be in his corner for 251 because he tested positive for coronavirus. Which
also made me think it was a very close call. I mean Masvidal could have just as easily had it. I mean, I feel like if he would have tested positive, we probably would have known before we knew about his coach.
Yeah.
So I'm almost positive that he's probably in the clear as of right now.
For now.
But I mean, that just shows how close we probably were to losing that fight as well.
Yeah, I mean, if it wasn't for Masvidal stepping up for this, we would have essentially lost the main event for this pay-per-view because Colby Covington just came off a fight and he said he would step in, but ultimately he didn't really. I don't think he really wanted to step in. I think he just said it so he didn't look like a punk, but I think UFC wasn't going to give it to him, being that he just fought.
Yeah, I feel like ultimately Masvidal kind of had no choice. I mean, if he doesn't step in here, it just makes him look bad. Yeah. Especially for a guy who's, known for speaking out about his abilities and how he's always willing to fight anytime, any place. I mean, he kind of had to take this fight. If he didn't, at that point, I mean, it's just trash talk from people that probably mean nothing anyways. But, when you say something in that, big of a light, you kind of have to back it up.
I agree. I mean, I just feel like with everything, with his coach and everything like that, and having to cut weight in a short amount of time, the odds are not in his favor. But with the kind of fighter he is, he might surprise some people. Just look at the Ben Askren fight as an example. Everyone went in expecting a dog fight, and it ended in less than 10 seconds.
Yeah.
So we might get another fight like that. I hope it's very interesting. I'm definitely can't wait to tune in. The card itself should be amazing.
Well, to leave off on that, who do you got winning the fight?
I actually have Usman winning the fight for now, barring any changes. But as of this recording, I have Usman winning the fight.
Weak.
Weak.
Stick to your decision.
No, I am. I mean, I think even with a full training camp, I would have picked Usman to win the fight. However, I feel like with the short amount of time leading up to the fight, on short notice, I feel like it's more in favor for Masvidal to surprise. Like, I feel like he has a better chance of winning now than he would with a full training camp, because Usman wasn't really training. I mean, they were training for each other at first, but then he started training for someone else, which was a totally different fighter. So I just feel like his best chance of winning is now, which is why I said, barring any changes, I have Usman. But typically, I would, like I said to my a family member of mine, I would have picked Usman if they had a full training camp. So I'm gonna stick with Usman.
Ultimately, I think I'd have to favorite Usman either way. Kind of the same thing like you said. I think his ground game will be a little bit too much for Masvidal.
I heard he's actually training with the wrestlers though.
Yeah, but his wrestling's definitely not up to par in terms of.
Yeah, he obviously wants to stay on his feet.
He obviously is going to want to stay on his feet, and he's going to want to train as much as he can on the ground within the next 6 days to prepare for somebody like Usman. But it's going to take a lot more than what he currently has in his abilities to do it. That's why I say Usman. I did see a video of Usman saying that he wants to bless him with his hands. I think it'd be a big mistake if he tries to stand and trade with him. Not that he couldn't, but he shouldn't try and do it for the entire match. I definitely wouldn't.
I think if he does that, he's going to have a similar situation to what Ronda Rousey got from Holly Holmes.
Yeah, and I think this matchup, ultimately a lot of people are saying Masvidal is going to knock him out. I think that we could see a similar matchup to what, Conor McGregor and Khabib look like. Yeah. We know Masvidal has hands, but when he's taken down by a guy who can, really take it to you on the ground like Usman, because we saw what he did with Tyron Woodley. I mean, it's gonna be tough for him to win that.
I mean, ultimately, I hope Masvidal does win. Like, I hope he wins. That's who I want to win the fight. But do I think he's gonna win the fight? I do not. And like I said, if he does win the fight, it'll be on some crazy shit that happens. But
it's MMA. You can't never count him out.
I just hope that he does win, because it's going to cause, like Gilbert Burns says, it's going to cause chaos in the division. It's going to be almost like a circus, because no one expected it. And Masvidal is one to kind of give people opportunities, even though they're not necessarily the next in line. Yeah. And he was talking about giving Wonder Boy a shot because he lost to Wonder Boy. He also talked about giving, forget off the top of my head, but someone else a shot, and they're not necessarily next in line. Yeah. So, like Gilbert Burns said, it might be more chaotic in the division if he were to win, which is kind of what I want to see. Because it makes things more juicy, because you're not
when the matchups are harder to make. That only means that there's a lot more fighters in that pot.
As a wrestling fan, so like as a WWE fan, I love when fighters who have the belt necessarily take on all contenders, not necessarily like who's next, almost kind of thing. So I like where anything can happen at any given moment. So with Masvidal, he would have that similar approach as champion, where he'd essentially take a fight against anybody and not give a shit. So that's kind of why I want him to win. We're just gonna have to wait and see.
Yeah.
So moving on, we're gonna talk about the Giants. The Giants named Hannah Burnett as the team's first female full-time scout, which is crazy because I think it was the first in like 96 years or something like that.
It's the first woman who's a full-time scout in the Giants' 95-year history.
Yeah, so it's big news.
To start, congratulations to Hannah Burnett.
Yeah, I was just going to say shout out to Hannah Burnett for breaking a barrier. I mean, the NFL is integrating more women in the sport. I know the 49ers have a female coach full-time on staff. So women are being introduced into the sport more and more each and every season. So this is a step in the right direction. So congratulations to Hannah. Shout out to you. As a Giants fan, I'm actually excited to give a female this opportunity, prove herself, and also if this all works out, which we all hope it does, that just means a door will open for another female in the near future. But Hannah, she has experience with the Buffalo Bills, the NFL office, and as recent as the Atlanta Falcons. Through her history in terms of work experience, dating back to her being an intern. So I think this is a great opportunity for her, but also a great opportunity for us because it brings a fresh pair of eyes in our scouting department and help out essentially our drafting for years to come.
Yeah, definitely. She's an athlete, which is a great start. She was a 3-sport athlete in high school and then went on to play lacrosse at the University of Mass. But I'm excited. I'm glad that the Giants gave her this opportunity. You know, as a fan, it was good to... I read a quote that she said the only thing she cares about is for the Giants to win a Super Bowl. Her main goal as a team is to win a Super Bowl. And she said, that's my goal, that's everyone's goal. So it's kind of refreshing to see, it's refreshing to see that, she has goals as a team, aside from just herself.
Yeah.
And that she has a drive and that she wants to help the Giants win by any means necessary, which is, as a scout, is all you could really hope to do.
Yeah.
So I'm excited to have her on as a Giants fan, and in general, just happy to see that the NFL is, giving women more opportunities.
Yeah, I definitely seen that quote too. I'm just happy that if we hired her because I'm one that it's not the color of your skin or your gender or your background. It's more, are you the best fit for the job? Yeah. And in this case, her goals are aligned with the franchise and the executives present. So I'm happy for her. I'm happy for the Giants. I'm excited to see what happens.
Yeah, I wish her luck. I hope she's successful, honestly, and I hope that she can, scout a few players that help bring us a championship.
Yeah,
that'd be great.
And with that, we're going to move on to more NFC East news. The Washington Redskins were in headlines this past week. Not good. I mean, everyone's been emphasizing a name change for years. Dan Snyder seems to be just ignoring everybody. But this time, he's listening for once. I mean, the minority owner of the Redskins, the owner of FedEx, who's sponsoring the Redskins and that stadium with the naming rights, he said he's not going to support the Redskins until they make a change. And boy, did he listen, because now they're under review to change the name. Yeah. So what do you think on that?
It kind of almost feels like the NFL statement. Like when Roger Goodell made a video. It's like he's only doing it because he's being held accountable. He's only doing it because he basically almost backed up into a corner. Like he has no choice. I mean, Nike, like you said, they took all Redskins gear off Nike. Minority owners want to sell all their stake in the team because they don't want to be a part of that. It doesn't really look good, and it doesn't really feel good. You wish that these people would make these decisions before.
Generally.
No,
genuine.
Oh, genuinely. I feel like you want to see these people make these decisions before, they're backed up into that corner.
Yeah.
It shouldn't. It seems like why is it such a big fight? It
He's only doing it
it
because
felt like it was common sense,
Yeah.
and it was,
he's only doing it because it's hurting his bottom dollar.
yeah,
like,
basically. He's losing
it's,
money.
It's hurting his money, so he's deciding to make a change. Because, like I've said, people have spoke out about this name and saying how it speaks badly on the Native Americans. Like, it's not Redskins is not it's a derogatory.
derogatory, yeah.
It's a derogatory term. Whereas, like, the Seminoles, for example, in college, that's a name that they can gather behind. Like, they don't take offense to that kind of name. Whereas the Native American community has spoken out in the past, and people have asked him to change the name, and he absolutely refused. So, even though it's force-fed, I'm happy it's going to happen. Just because you hate to see that in a sport. And the Cleveland Indians in baseball actually spoke out, and they talked about following suit in terms of changing their name as well. But the thing is, in years past, they had the Chief Woohoo, the logo, and they changed that genuinely. Like, they changed it to the Red Sea, which they have now. So they've progressively done it on their own, and they seem to be taking action before being asked to do so.
To see Snyder do it as well.
But he's on something else. But
honestly, I feel like, I mean, I've seen great name ideas. So for me, it almost seems like, why not change the name just to change their name in general? I mean, Redskins, it not only is a derogatory term, but I've seen names that, I mean, I think you could do a lot more with. I know Haskins said he liked the name Red Tails, which is homage to the Tuskegee Airmen, which is the nation's first African American aerial combat unit.
And
from World War II.
A lot of people,
which I love.
Yeah, a lot of people have spoken out about Red Tails. I think that's probably the best bet because you get to keep the same colorway. You don't have to really change much in terms of the logo or anything like that, and it has good meaning behind it.
Yes.
I know that's kind of where he got the idea from, and that's why he spoke out, because someone had recommended the Washington Buckeyes as humor because they have so many Ohio State Buckeyes. But you could also say the same thing about having the Alabama Crimson Tide. So
somebody say the Washington Haskins.
So I think the Red Tails is honestly the best bet. I know you have a few more names written down. I have a few more.
I had one, the Pigskins. Which
I don't want to see that.
That ties into when they were dubbed the Hawks in the 80s, early 90s, because their O-line was known for the ability to control.
I mean, I'd rather the Pigskins than the Hogs.
Yeah.
Because it's they can still go by the skins, and it's more so in reference to like their history, but also the pigskin being the football.
But also just in terms of, if you think about all these names that have been, that have been suggested, just in terms of marketing, you're able to do a lot more than you were with the Redskins.
So what I have written down, I have the Braves. I mean, there's the Braves in baseball, but that was their original name as a team before they switched over to the Redskins. Do I want to see that? No, not really. Just because it can be taken as an offense. And with the Redskins changing their name because it's derogatory, why change it to something else that may be considered derogatory to some?
Yeah.
So I do not want to see that. Also, with there being the Atlanta Braves, you don't want that much confusion. But I've seen the Red Hawks, which is similar. They keep the colorway, and it's in reference to, like, they don't have to change much in terms of the logo, and something similar. So they're able to keep the R that they have, like the red R, and then something else is the Warriors, and that's more so that they can keep the bow and arrow on their helmet that they used to have, and they sometimes bring back for the throwback uniforms.
Yeah.
They just probably would lose the feathers, in a sense, in reference to the Redskins or the Native American community. So those are what I have. Like I mentioned to you, I think the Red Tails is probably the best
I agree.
bet.
I think the Red Tails is the best name. Like I said, it's tribute to the Tuskegee Airmen, which, especially in a time like this, would be great to see. Yeah. Especially from Dan Snyder, somebody who, took this long to change the name. It'd be nice to see him actually, pay that tribute to African Americans,
Yeah.
So that'd be where my vote is. And to move on from that, with more NFL news, Devin Njoku requests a trade from the Browns.
I kind of seen this coming as soon as they signed Austin Hooper to that big of a deal. Just because he's not going to get his money's worth when it's time for his contract to expire. I mean, I felt like he was still an opportunity to succeed because their new coach, he uses tight ends a lot in his offense.
Yeah.
So I felt like he was going to see a lot more targets in the offense itself. But I see where he's coming from, where maybe his value is limited and it can be maximized elsewhere. So I kind of seen this coming. I'm actually excited for him because I think he can do better elsewhere with a different opportunity and different surrounding. I actually have a few ideal landing spots written down, but I'll mention them after.
Kind of like you said. I mean, he's a great tight end. He has such a huge ceiling. I feel like he hasn't even gotten halfway to what he can be. Yeah. But also, I feel like even without Austin Hooper, that offense is kind of already stacked.
Yeah.
So he's already losing targets and numbers there, which, like you said, ends up making him lose money because your number's not there. I'm not going to pay you that money. I'm not going to pay you top tight end money if your numbers don't say you're top tight end. So I'm excited for him too. I want to see him land with a team that's got potential. He's a young guy. I'd like to see him with a quarterback, a veteran quarterback maybe, hopefully, that can get him the ball and run his numbers up because he's a great target. He's a great threat. So I guess, like you said, I'm just excited to see the opportunities that he can get and teams that could really utilize him to his full potential. And
so for me, I hope he goes to either a veteran quarterback who utilizes the tight end position a lot, but more so I want him to go to a up-and-coming team. Not necessarily one that's going to compete now, but one that can use his talent and maximize it for his benefit, but also because since they're a young team, they're going to gradually get better as years to come. So the first team that came to mind when I thought about that was the team that we just spoke about, which was the Redskins. Dwayne Haskins, he doesn't really have that much weapons outside of Terry McLaurin and the running backs, but the running backs seem to be injury prone. They just lost Jordan Reed, so due to him being injured, but he's got a similar playing style where he's able to stretch the field. And with Haskins having his big arm, I think it's a perfect fit.
Not to mention that Washington's top tight end currently is Jeremy Sprinkle, who averaged just 6 yards per target and scored 1 touchdown in 16 games.
Yeah.
So.
But I think besides Washington, the best spot for him, or the best opportunity for maybe even the Browns, would be Jacksonville. And the reason why I say that, they just signed Tyler Eifert, who's hasn't had the greatest injury history in the past few years. He's good tight end when healthy, but or top tight end when healthy, but that's when he's healthy. He's kind of having a hard time in terms of staying healthy. But in terms of a good signing for both, the Browns need pass rush. They have a pass rusher over there who does not want to be there in Yannick Ngakoue.
Yeah.
So why not necessarily do an exchange for Njoku and Ngakoue? Not necessarily. I'm not saying straight up. Obviously, Cleveland probably have to make a package around Ngakoue, but Ngakoue's stock in terms of trade value has went down for Jacksonville because he does not want to be there. I think, and also with them,
he has all the leverage.
Yeah, and they need as much help in terms of weapons on offense to help out Minshew or whoever does end up being their quarterback. And they're not in win now mode, so they essentially grow together and build chemistry. And they might even have a chance to get Trevor Lawrence or Justin Fields next year. In the draft. So I think that would be a really great opportunity for both the Browns getting the best value for Njoku, but also for Njoku to kind of go out and prove himself. Because going to Jacksonville, he might just be the number 2 target behind Chark.
Yeah.
So, and Fournette might not be there either, so he might his touches might be maximized there, is what I'm trying to say.
For me personally, I think a great fit for him, and where I personally would like to see him is in New England. They haven't had a real number one tight end since Gronk. And Cam's not really had a good number one tight end since Greg Olsen.
A healthy Greg Olsen.
Ben Watson is currently the tight end who led all Pats tight ends with just 173 yards right now. And he's currently retired.
Yeah, and that's sad because he's not even on the team anymore.
Yeah, and he just retired.
And the thing is, he wasn't even on the team all season last year.
Yeah.
Because they ended up letting him go.
And not to mention, we know what, we've seen what Belichick has done, with tight ends. So, especially a young guy like, David Njoku, it'd be great to see how he can, what he can do in that offense with Bill Belichick. And not only that, but, maximizing potential. If there's any coach that's going to do that, it's Bill Belichick.
I agree 100%. I mean, I had New England written down on my list just because Cam, he utilizes the tight end position heavily. That offense, it maximizes the potential at tight end. He has a similar play style to what Aaron Hernandez had in terms of being a vertical threat, and which is what they lack.
Yeah.
So I think it's a really good fit. So the only doubts I have in terms of the move, or the only doubts I have of Njoku going to New England would be that New England just invested draft capital into 2 tight ends this past draft. So I'm not saying that they can't do 2 tight end sets, because they're known for the maximizing their talent. And in the past few years, since not having Gronk, the depth at that position has been lackluster at best. So it would be a great move. And if anyone were to pull that trigger, it would be Bill Belichick.
Yeah, especially like you said. I mean, maximizing potential, and we see what they did with 2 tight ends when they had Gronk and Aaron Hernandez. So
yeah.
For me, I think personally that's where I'd like to see him go. And I think it's a great fit. But for a young tight end like him, there's really not many places you can't fit him.
Exactly. He has a unique talent or specialty about him. He hasn't really proven it yet in the league, but he's, in terms of athleticism, he's like top 97 percentile within tight ends. So, which is ridiculous. Yeah. So his athletic ability allows him to fit almost anywhere. I mean, a few other positions I'm not gonna, a few other teams that I have written down, I'm not gonna necessarily go into them, but I'll probably touch on them a little bit. I have Arizona. They don't really have much tight ends on there. Their number 1 tight end is Max Williams, and if they get him, their talent on offense, it would be ridiculous on paper. I mean, it's going to be super explosive, especially if they get Njoku, who's a vertical threat. And another one would be Carolina, which coincidentally we just talked about Cam, and how he hasn't really had a tight end since Greg Olsen when he was healthy. They don't have anyone besides, I believe his name is Ian Thomas or something like that.
Yeah.
And he's proven that he can be good, but his consistency is not necessarily there. But bringing in Njoku, you might be able to run the 2 tight end set to that team. And with Matt Rule coming from college, he might bring some college formations to that offense. And with Bridgewater being there, maybe even a quarterback that possibly might get drafted there, it could be a good landing spot for him.
Yeah. I also was thinking about the Packers. They have not a single tight end on the roster who caught more than 10 passes last year. And, I mean, we saw what they did with their draft. They drafted 2 of their best positions. And everybody was calling for, why didn't you put weapons around Aaron Rodgers? Well, it's kind of a perfect opportunity to do that now.
Yeah. With
a guy like Njoku, who's a great offensive weapon. Try to trade for him. Go grab him.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, that would be a good fit. They need talent outside of the running back crew and Devontae Adams. Devontae Adams is kind of begging for help. I know Aaron Rodgers is begging for help too, but Devontae Adams is essentially that workhorse to the offense. I mean, seeing them bring in David Njoku might actually help out Jace Sternberger, I think that's his last name, who they drafted not that long ago, who he has potential too, but it might help having someone else there to kind of push him and in terms of competitively, and also just being able to bounce off each other in terms of talent, and bringing in a free agent talent in a receiver might benefit that as well.
Yeah, and like we said, he's versatile. So move
them around.
You move them around if you need to.
Yeah. So, with that, we're gonna move on to the NBA once again. Well, this is kind of bad news, and in terms of we were talking about how it might be in question last episode, or not last episode, 2 episodes ago, we talked about how it was in question, and this isn't helping at all. I mean, the restart hasn't yet began. No one really has went to Orlando except the Orlando Magic, who are already stationed there. But the Clippers, the Heat, and the Bucks closed their team facilities leading up to the restart due to multiple players testing positive for COVID-19. And they don't plan on practicing again until they travel to the bubble. So what are your thoughts?
When I think of this, it makes me think more so how much this has effect on the season, and how much of reality is it that it might actually get canceled, especially when you see 3 very good teams who are very much still in the race and in contention, and 3 teams that could make pushes for a championship this year. So it's unfortunate, and you wish that it wouldn't happen so that these teams are able to practice, especially having to go to Orlando and compete for a championship off of no practice, and kind of already having your body be off balance because you haven't been playing for so long. So it's just really unfortunate, because you don't know what effect this has on not only the league and the uncertainty of the league coming back, but also, then you have whatever team does end up coming out on top, then you have all these excuses. And then that's where the asterisks come in. Because I feel like every team has level ground. And then until you kind of say, well, not this team now, because they weren't able to practice up until this time. Yeah. Because they shut down all the team facilities because people had coronavirus. It's just unfortunate.
For me, I feel like if anything, the asterisk, or however the hell you pronounce it, should mean, like, I feel like it should give them, the team that wins, more credit in terms of winning because of all the challenges they had to deal with leading up to it and things like that. Like, I feel like going in, the championship window is more wide open now than it's ever been. Like, one of the top teams might not even be the team that should come out winning.
But I'm also speaking more so on the fact that, say you have a team like the Lakers, who's a very good team and a very real possibility of winning it regardless.
Yeah.
Coronavirus or not, regular full season or not, they have a very real chance of winning it with the roster that they have. But if they go out and win it now, it's almost as if, well, the best team to compete with you wasn't able to practice the entire time leading up to it because they closed all the facilities.
I mean, the only thing that's working against them, that I feel like that doesn't really play as much of a factor as if, let's say, Kawhi Leonard gets coronavirus mid restart. Yeah. So in terms of like not now, like the teams I'm sure they rather them get it now than later. So let's say we're in like the second round of the playoffs and Kawhi Leonard gets corona and he essentially misses the rest of the series, they get eliminated. Maybe in that case, I can see like the excuses coming. I feel like besides that, the playing field is as leveled as it's going to get. Do I feel like this is the right thing to do in terms of restarting the season? I do not. Only for the health purposes of everyone. Do I hope that it happens? Of course. As a sports fan, you want to see it happen. Also, as a Laker fan, this was our best chance of actually winning a championship. And I also wanted us to win it for Kobe, being that he just passed away earlier this year. So I want the season to happen. I do think it's going to happen. I don't know how it's going to happen. But this just brings questions on maybe this isn't the right decision to move forward.
Because you want to see everybody be safe as possible. I mean, you want there to be things implemented for them to, not contract coronavirus and stay as far away from it as possible. So when you see that players are getting it now, right before they're supposed to continue their season at the end of this month, it it's a little sketchy.
Yeah, I seen something in terms of how each player is going to be wearing a ring, and it's supposed to like ring whenever you get closer than 6 feet of another person wearing a ring, to kind of keep them 6 feet apart and social distance, just to kind of keep social distancing going. And there's something else where it's like if you don't listen to the first beep, it gets even louder. Similar systems to that. Also, like with the food, they don't really have much options. So like for breakfast, for example, if you instead of giving you the options and you picking, they're literally going to make everything for you in terms of whatever's on the menu and bring it to you, and you pick from there. Almost so like if you don't like one thing, you have plenty of other options, and that's to kind of prevent the interaction or the contact. So I can see the precautions are necessarily there in the bubble, but how many people or how many of the players are actually going to listen to those precautions when they're going to be there for at least 3 months?
Yeah, it just makes you question a lot.
Wait,
they're gonna
like Stephen A. says, you telling me a single player ain't gonna get all the ladies, somehow find a way to get the ladies in there do what they gotta do?
Well, I don't know. I feel like it makes me question a lot, because you have all these things implemented for them inside the bubble, but nobody's supposed to be leaving that bubble.
Except if they have like Gordon Hayward's gonna have a birth of a child,
exactly,
so he can leave. But he's got to quarantine when he comes back.
Yeah, but then that's what I'm saying. So these guys are gonna be on the same court together. These guys are gonna be bodies on top of bodies. These guys are gonna be in each other's faces, sweating on each other. It's weird. Yeah,
like I said, I'm interested to see how it all works out. They seem to be in the bubble. They seem to be making the necessary precautions for it to work. But how many of those people or players are going to actually listen to those precautions? Especially not only when you just get in week 1. I'm talking about like 3 months in, where they've been away from their families, or if they have any families, or if you're single and you're trying to get a piece of ass,
shake some cheeks.
You've been gone for so long, so
oh man,
hey, they might be craving it, but that might be a window of opportunity for them to get COVID and bring it into the bubble. Yeah. So it's interesting to see what they do if coronavirus hits inside the bubble. Not necessarily, like right now, obviously no one's going in the bubble unless they're positive. I mean, not negative of the coronavirus, but what happens when there's a positive test inside the bubble when everyone's there? Like, what are they going to do? That's what I'm interested in seeing. And with that's that, we're actually going to move on to college basketball. There was some history made not that long ago. Makur Maker, he makes collegiate history by being the highest ranked prospect to commit to a HBCU since ESPN started its database in 2007. It's big news. I mean,
yeah, it's huge.
I think it's great for college basketball. It's
great for HBCUs.
Great for HBCUs. I think other top prospects, maybe like Mikey Williams, who was speaking of maybe attending HBCU, might actually follow through with it now that Makur Maker actually already decided to go to HBCU, and that's going to bring talent and money and resources to those HBCUs that need to enlighten or be enlightened in terms of the curriculum. I think it's great for college basketball too, because Makur Maker, he chose Howard, who has a great history in terms of academics, and a great history in terms of the African American community and be able to teach the African American history. But like, he chose that over colleges like UCLA, I believe Kentucky, Memphis, which are top colleges at the moment in college basketball. So the fact that he chose that over those schools is it's interesting in itself, but it's a good interesting, like the ball's rolling in the right direction.
Yeah. Yeah, like you said, he wants to start a movement. Mikey Williams mentioned it. He was thinking about going to HBCU, and I think even after Makur Maker committed to Howard, Williams congratulated him and told him, let's make history. So it was a very real possibility that he does go to an HBCU. Like you said, he chose Howard over some big time schools. It's really good for college basketball. It's really good for HBCUs. It allows them an opportunity to bring in that, real good, TV money and get certain deals that, maybe they weren't, awarded before because they didn't have big enough names. They weren't getting in big enough tournaments. They weren't competing enough. So getting players like, McCormick or, Mikey Williams or even maybe possibly LeBron James Jr. in the future would be good,
And they have good talent there in terms of like coaching. They just don't get the recognition because not big talent players go there.
Everyone wants to go to Duke and UNC and Kentucky.
It's going to be very interesting to see what happens. As much as I would like for them to be on separate teams and kind of build a competitive atmosphere within the HBCUs and kind of uplift all of the schools rather than just one, as much as I would like to see that happen, I'd also like to see maybe if they do choose to team up together and go to Howard, for example, and give them the best opportunity to win a national championship and be in the limelight, because then it'll open the doors for all the other schools. Definitely. But I'd rather them go to separate schools and make a competitive atmosphere and kind of uplift them all at once rather than just one. And
amongst the HBCUs rather than just one.
One with others to follow.
Definitely. And that leaves us with our final topic of this episode, Patrick Mahomes' record-breaking deal of $503 million through 10 years.
That man itself is a bank teller.
That is a lot of money.
Money, 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 money! What you gonna do, Derek?
Congratulations, you're still my agent.
Let me hold some. So
LeBron James was congratulating him and was like, "Let me hold $5."
LeBron don't need no guy. LeBron don't need no money.
I'm about to hit him up like the dude from Everybody Hates Chris. Yo, little man, let me hold $1. Or that little kid, give me $1, man.
You better spend all that money on Heinz ketchup.
Probably. I mean, the crazy thing is that's just not even including any of his sponsorships. So
he might be a billionaire by the time he's done.
He's already half a billionaire. So,
what do you think about the biggest deal in NFL? I think it's the biggest deal in sports history. Could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure it's the biggest deal in sports
American
history.
sports history.
American sports history.
American sports history. So, I love the deal. I mean, I don't think anyone in football should be making that much money. But if I were to pick anyone to make that much money, it would be Patrick Mahomes.
Yeah, definitely.
And because he deserves every single dollar that is going his way. He's only played 2 seasons as a starter, and he's won over 15 times. I believe it's 17 times. He has a starter record of like 17-4 or something like that.
League MVP 1 year, Super Bowl champion the next.
Yeah, it's like his accolades so far is legendary, and he's only 24 years old.
He's only 3 seasons in.
3 seasons in, 2 years as a starter, and he's already done things that people who with an entire career haven't even accomplished. Yeah. So I love the deal because he deserves everything that he's going to get moving forward. I think he was 10 years, worth up to $503 million in total. I know it's guaranteed $141 million or something around that area, especially
if he gets injured.
Yeah. So that's guaranteed. $63 million of that is guaranteed in terms of at the signing of his contract. But Patrick Mahomes spoke out and said that he had 2 goals in mind when signing the contract, and that was long-term security, which he gets with the 10 years. He knows he's going to be in KC for as long as he's going to be, and I think it's a great opportunity for him, especially if Andrew Reid stays there as long as that lasts, and just to leave KC flexibility to build a team around him. And I feel like a lot of big players, especially quarterbacks, they don't have that in mind when they sign the big contracts because they almost look out for themselves. Yeah. I'm not saying that they shouldn't.
I mean, it's something that Brady always did.
Yeah.
Take a pay cut.
Yeah,
I mean,
he took a pay cut.
kind of, extended his time rather than taking a pay cut.
And I think a lot more quarterbacks should have that in mind because they do get paid the most money unnecessarily. Oh, they do. Just because their position is worth a lot more in a sense. And terms of like the executives' minds. But I think that's great because it allows them to build a team because a lot of their offensive talent right now is under 30 years old. They're 30 years or younger. But down the road at the end of his contract, they're probably going to have to revamp that offense again. So it still allows them flexibility to provide him with talent so that they can be competitive all 10 years of that contract.
Yeah, all throughout his career with KC.
Yeah. So I think it's a great move for both parts. It was bound to happen. I was interested because there was a rumor saying that his contract might be tied into like a percentage of the salary cap.
Yeah, I saw that as well. I also read that it's not true.
It's not true.
That would have been insane.
But that would have been very insane, which would have meant the more money the salary cap went up, the more money he made. But I actually like the move. In terms of guaranteed money, it's not the richest contract in sports. But it can be worth up to the richest contract in sports with all the incentives.
He has all the potential. I mean,
yeah.
Everything he's done, like we said, in 3 years. I mean, just imagine what he could do in the next 10.
But I read up on like some of the incentives. In order for him to live or maximize that contract, he'd have to win league MVP every single year and bring the Chiefs to the Super Bowl every single year. I'm not saying it's not possible.
It's a long shot.
It's a long shot in terms of every single year.
That's Brady numbers.
I think he's capable of doing so if healthy, or if his team is healthy. But I don't think he'll meet the maximized worth of his contract. But I think he'd get pretty damn close.
A big chunk. It's insane. I mean, I was reading numbers earlier, and they were saying like his dad made, I think it was like $1,600,000 some odd dollars throughout his career. And his son is gonna make $500 million, or possible. You know, he's got the opportunity to. So, I mean,
with sponsorships, he might make up. He might make a Billy.
100%. So
you might be calling him Billy.
It's just insane. It's a lot of money. But I'm just curious to see how it moves the market. I think no matter where it moves it, I think he's deserved to be the highest paid quarterback no matter what. So I think the next few deals that we get, I don't think should be more money, but we know how it works in the NFL. Is like when that person gets paid top dollar, all of a sudden that number moves up. So I'm just curious to see where that goes.
Yeah, it's definitely going to play its effect on the league. I mean, no one expected a 10-year contract in football at this given moment.
Contract.
Yeah, pretty much. So I definitely think in terms of years, like for example the Dak Prescott situation, I think it affects that. As in like the debate how Dak wants 4 years, the Cowboys want 5. I think it's more likely to be 5 years now after this contract.
Likely to be a lot more money too. They should have signed him.
Yeah, it's definitely gonna be a lot more money. Like we mentioned in the past, they should have signed him before Mahomes and Watson kind of got on the books because that was only going to move up the market. So he's gonna be asking for more money because the market has moved up. He's not going to be asking for Mahomes' money because we know no one's on his level, and if anyone's close to being on his level, it's Russell Wilson and Deshaun Watson and Aaron Rodgers at his best. Yeah. So no one's deserving of that kind of money. I think after all these signings, no one's going to get paid more than that top dollar of $503 million for a while. Eventually it's going to be capped off because of the salary cap moving up continuously. Yeah. But I just think in terms of guaranteed money, someone's going to someone's going to beat him in terms of guaranteed money because he decided to get that flexibility or give that flexibility to the team, and there's going to be players who won't give the flexibility to the team. So these next contracts are going to get ridiculous, and I honestly think moving on to one of the questions I had for you is, which quarterback do you think is going to get paid next? But, like, for me, I think Deshaun Watson might be taking the rest of that salary cap in Houston. Bill O'Brien was like...
They need to make a lot more moves than just Deshaun Watson. But
what I'm going to say is, Houston was watching this, and as the news dropped, Bill O'Brien was like, hold my beer.
Oh my God! Because he's gonna ruin that team somehow.
He was willing to trade all their assets for players. Yeah. Who says that he's not gonna pay all their assets? Well, deservingly so. Deshaun Watson deserves his money. They're nothing without him. Yeah. So they're gonna have to pay him regardless. but they're going to be paying bank because he was purposely waiting for Mahomes to get paid.
Yeah. Well, to start, before I get into that, I'm curious to see how this has an effect on players taking longer contracts like this. Because, like I said, it's like a baseball contract. It's not something you see often in the NFL where a guy takes a 10-year contract. So I'm curious to see how it affects that in the future and guys being more willing to take those long contracts.
I don't think it's going to happen. The only reason why I don't think it's going to happen, it's...
All it takes is one guy.
Those contracts are more in favor of the players, and it's not a team-friendly contract in terms of the dedication of that length.
Yeah.
But Patrick Mahomes is one of those players where you're willing to take that chance.
I don't think a guy like Deshaun Watson or Lamar Jackson are that far off.
Well, in terms of their importance to that franchise, I'm not disagreeing with you at all. But I'm just saying in terms of like other players outside maybe the quarterback position, they're not going to stretch that much. That's why. Ideally the contract length is typically around 5 years.
Definitely. Well, also because it's the NFL and players, their life expectancy in the league is a lot shorter. So that's to be expected. As for who I think gets paid next, honestly, I think it's Dak only because the Cowboys and him are so close to a deal. I mean, they have until the 15th to get a deal done.
Close?
Huh?
Close?
It's very close. But I say that only because even if they play this entire year on the contract, then maybe I see Deshaun Watson getting paid first. But I just think the fact that they've had discussions about it already and the fact that they are so close to a contract already is what leads me to believe that I think he'll be next. I haven't heard really many reports of the Texans' Deshaun really having much conversation about the terms of a possible new contract. So that's the only reason I really say this. But,
okay.
It could really go anywhere. I mean, now that, like you said, he could have been waiting. So now that Pat Mahomes got his money, now that he's got that, maybe now Deshaun's got his number. So we'll kind of see where that goes. But I only say the Cowboys because of how close they already are.
I think the only way Dak gets paid first is because of that deadline of the July 15th.
Yeah.
However, I do think it's going to be Deshaun Watson for the simple fact that the GM is Bill O'Brien, who's the head coach, who drafted Deshaun Watson. Everyone is in agreement that Deshaun Watson is the franchise quarterback, and it will be for years to come. His importance is high on that team. So I think his value to that team is a lot more than what Dax is to the Cowboys. And you can see it in the way that how they kind of, or you can see it in how the Cowboys and Jerry Jones approached the Dak Prescott contract situation. So that's one reason why I think they're closer in terms of what the player is worth. Which is why I say Houston will sign Deshaun Watson first, because he was essentially waiting for Patrick Mahomes to kind of get the market moved up, but also to get a range of where he wants to get paid.
Yeah,
so
where he thinks he should be.
Yeah, and deservingly so, he's going to get his money. Who knows how much it's going to be, but I think Bill O'Brien will pull that trigger now that the contract is out for Patrick Mahomes. Deshaun Watson should be signed within, I say, by the end of the month.
Yeah, maybe. Like I said, for me, I think Dak has all the cards in his hand. And I think Jerry Jones would be dumb to let it go past, July 15th. Because if there's some, crazy chance that Dak becomes a free agent, I think he gets the number he wants from other teams.
Maybe even more.
More.
Especially if he performs this season.
And so I think that Dallas would be stupid to let that slip up. Because then, they might find themselves in a situation where they have to match an offer just to keep him. And it's either lose my quarterback or match this offer, and it might be a lot more than what they were willing to pay him now or what he's willing to take.
And that might also mess up with the chemistry of the team, bringing a different quarterback.
Definitely. And I think Jerry Jones, as much as it might not seem, I think Jerry Jones knows the longer he waits, the worse off he is.
Yeah, because I'm telling you, if Deshaun Watson signs before Dak Prescott,
it's even worse.
It's even worse on the Cowboys' part because his value is only going to get higher and higher. And yeah, you might get your 5 years that you asked for, but you're going to be paying a lot more money out of your pocket per year for this guy. And a lot more than you should. He's going to get overpaid regardless. He deserves his money. I'm not saying he doesn't. And he's going to get overpaid regardless because that's how quarterback contracts typically are nowadays.
NFL contracts are. Sports contracts.
Yeah. So he's going to get overpaid even more if Deshaun Watson signs before him. So Jerry Jones just needs to sign him as soon as he possibly can. Yeah. I do think both of them, if the Cowboys do come to an agreement, long-term agreement with Dak, I think both quarterbacks will be signed long-term by the end of the month.
Yeah.
Obviously, Houston has more flexibility because they don't have a deadline waiting on them. So we're just gonna have to wait and see. Congratulations to Patrick Mahomes. I mean, it's kind of ridiculous, but you deserve it.
There's anybody deserving it, Tim.
Yeah, so
widely considered the best player in the NFL, and that's only after year 3. So
I mean, he's the face of the NFL now.
Yeah, curious to see how good he's gonna get.
He's only reaching the surface with his talent. So if that's just reaching the surface, I kind of can't wait to see what his career looks like.
I don't want to see them win fucking next 10 years.
I mean, it is what it is.
It is what it is.
So that's all we have for you guys today on this episode of Balls Deep. We appreciate you guys tuning in. Once again, like Jovan mentioned in the beginning of the episode.
Whether you're here from episode 1 or episode 10, regardless of where you started watching us, we appreciate you watching us. We appreciate you following us, learning more about us. Like I said before, we have fun recording these. We hope you have fun watching these.
Having 10 episodes or being 10 episodes in is a big marker for us, just because this is something that we created, and we created to express our sports opinion. It's something that we love to do, and something that we wanted to share with you guys, which is why we welcome you guys to comment and give us feedback. We're getting better as time goes on. We're also thinking about different ideas and what we can bring to you guys, and we would love to hear what you guys would like to see
from us.
Maybe it's improvements or just something you want to see in terms of the episode or the format or something. We want to give you guys what you guys asked for while doing what we enjoy doing. So
what we're passionate about.
Exactly. So we appreciate you guys. Thank you for tuning in. Make sure to follow us on all platforms, or listen or watch us on any platform that you necessarily follow us on, whether that's YouTube or any of the platforms you want to tune in on, in terms of Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, and the list goes on. So
at Balls Deep Podcast with Devin and Jovan. We're on Instagram, we're on Twitter, we're on Facebook. Give us likes, give us follows, share us with your friends.
Comment. And that's all we got for you guys.
Until next week.
Peace.
You're talking about balls deep. I'm talking about balls deep. We're talking about balls deep in love. I'm talking about balls deep. My boy's talking about balls deep. We're talking about balls deep in love.